welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and I am the Messy Jew, and today we are making challah. Finally. If you don't know what challah is or why I sound like this when I talk, why I have the when I say it, well then you need to go back and watch my other videos all about Shabbat and the key elements to a traditional Jewish Shabbat dinner. But today I'm going to be taking you through a really simple recipe that I found so you can make your own challah for Shabbat. Now, a word of encouragement about making challah, or really any of these really nice Jewish recipes that I love to make. If you follow me on social media, you may know that I live in a tiny RV with a tiny, tiny kitchen where my only countertop surface is a little tiny table. Well, today we are very blessed to be staying in a friend's house where I have this gorgeous kitchen that I might just squat in and I will never leave. But I just want to encourage you, whenever I'm watching baking videos or cooking videos and they have this amazing kitchen, I'm like, well, of course you're making all these nice things. You have a nice kitchen. I live in a really small RV. This is just a special blessing today. So I encourage you, no matter your skill level, no matter your kitchen level, you can make this challah. I believe in you. This is a really simple recipe that I found. And so I think you guys are really gonna enjoy it. These are all of the ingredients and tools that you will need. You don't need a bread maker or anything. We're gonna start, well, we'll just start down here. You'll need some measuring cups and spoons. And for your oils, you're gonna need vegetable oil and or olive oil. I use both, don't ask me why. Some kosher salt, some active dry yeast, 3 eggs. 2 are going to go into the dough and 1 is going to be saved later for an egg wash. A small bowl, a large bowl, some flour, sugar, and then parchment paper, what's this called? Baking sheet, a wooden spoon, and a whisk. Let's get started! Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is get your yeast mixture ready. So you're going to need 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. This is not a quick rise yeast, although I guess you can use that if you're in a hurry, but I prefer the old school method. So 1 tablespoon, and you'll notice I'm using a smaller bowl than the bowl that I'm actually going to be mixing my dough in, and that is for a reason. Then 1 teaspoon of sugar into the yeast mixture. This is going to help activate it. Then you're going to need warm water. Now, I killed my yeast many times because my water either wasn't warm enough or it was too hot or it was too cold. And then someone finally told me you need your water to be about 110 degrees, and I took that literally, so I like to actually use a thermometer with my water. And that works for us well in this situation because the tap water is not very trustworthy. So I actually have an electric tea kettle that I'm going to boil. It says 155, but I'm going to stop it when it gets to about 105. So there's a couple things you can do. You can use a method like this. You can use a candy thermometer in your water, or the rule of thumb is no warmer than for a baby's bath. So that is a good method. So you are going to do 1 cup and 1/8 cup. And I'm actually going to test this. Yeah. Dump it in, and then you're going to mix it. I also didn't know you were supposed to mix it. I had a lot of vague recipes in my life. I don't appreciate that. So mix it and make sure everything is blended. And then we're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes until it foams and fluffs up. Now, while your yeast is getting ready, we can put that there. You can go away. Thank you for your service. Now you're going to take your big mixing bowl out and get it ready for the next step. But before we do that, a very important step for you before you kind of get into this deeper process. I'm gonna put this away. Right? And I'm gonna take off my rings. Once you start kneading the dough, you're gonna be very upset if you still have your rings on. So putting those in a safe place. I'm going to wash my hands. And then you're also gonna wanna make sure that your countertop or your surface, wherever you're gonna be kneading your dough, is also clean. So make sure you're using some kind of food safe spray to spray down your counter, and you can do all this while that is foaming up, so that way you are ready for the next step. And you might be thinking like, well, this is an unnecessary thing, but if you're gonna be making challah every week like I do, you kind of want to learn how to manage your time well, so that's why I just step like this. Now, in your giant mixing bowl, I love this bowl, you are going to crack 2 eggs. I don't trust you. 1. And 2. Now, fun fact, if you were doing kosher cooking, you would actually crack these eggs into their own separate bowl and check them for blood spots, because if they're blood spots, then it's not kosher. I think you have to then remove the blood spots. So, this is a fun sound. So we're gonna mix the eggs a little bit, and then you're gonna add in 1/4 cup of oil. Oh, but you know what I like to do before I do that? 1/4 cup of sugar, because if you do the oil first, then it's all sticky in there and everything will stick. So we figured out some things along the way. So 1/4 cup of sugar, all done with you, and then 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Now, I know some people use olive oil. I really don't know what the difference is. I think I've also used olive oil and it was fine, so it's just up to you. 1/4 cup, right into there. Bye. And then we're gonna mix this. So just enough so you can tell your eggs are blended, your sugar is in there. Now, that hasn't even been 5 minutes yet, and it takes about 10 minutes for this to fluff up. So now, in your remaining time here, you can be preparing for whatever else you're doing for that Shabbat dinner. So you can be cleaning, you can be cooking something, and we'll come back in a few minutes when this is ready. Okay, so we're back. The yeast is nice and fluffy and foamy, as you can see. And as always, I forgot the salt. I always forget the salt. I don't know why. So 1/2 tablespoon of salt is going to go into your dough. Good enough. And we're gonna mix it in. And then, now you can take your nice foamy yeast mixture, plunk that in here. Goodbye, thank you for your service. And we're going to mix that all together. And now we get to the good part, and we can start adding our flour. So, now you're gonna need a wooden spoon and your hands. So, your total amount of flour is gonna be about 4.5 cups. Sometimes I feel like it needs a little more, sometimes I feel like it needs a little less. You will figure it out as you go. So, I don't really like to dump in all 4.5 cups at once because I'm doing this by hand and it makes it really difficult to work with. So, what I'm gonna do is 2 cups right off the bat. I'm gonna keep it in the bowl as long as I can, and this is normally because I'm working on a really tiny surface that I can knead the dough on, and so it's kind of nice to keep it in the bowl as long as you can. But some people just like to wait until it's slightly formed and coming together and then dump it out. It's up to you. So, okay, as you can see, we've come back. I forgot to tell you a very important point. If you're like me, you should put your hair up before you start kneading, because whenever I start kneading and my hair's not up, I'm like the whole time, and then sometimes you have a very hairy challah and nobody likes the hairy challah. So we did put 2 cups of flour in here. This is perfect for the video because this happens to me all the time. You can ask my husband. Sometimes I ask him to keep count of how many things of flour I'm putting in. So now we're on our 3rd cup of flour. As you can see, I like to mix it all up just a little at a time. Just makes it a little more manageable to me. You'll figure out what works for you. So I'm scraping. This also it's fine. So we're gonna keep mixing. Again, I like to use the bowl and the spoon as long as I can because, oh, let me tell you, it is so sticky when you get your hands in there. And now we're on our 4th cup. Look at this. Look at us go. So, 4th cup, mixing in. I'll probably be ready for my hands here. As you can see, it's already starting to form. So, I'm swirling it around and it's already starting to form its own little, not really a ball, but something. So, doing this as long as I can, and now I'm ready to go in. So, I only need about half more cup according to the rules, but honestly, week to week, it varies. I think there's also stuff about humidity that has to do with it. So I'm gonna get my half cup ready, but I'm gonna keep my flour nearby because I will need a lot more flour to flour the surface, flour my hands. So I'm gonna start by taking from this just so I can keep track, and a very generous flouring of my surface. Oh my gosh, this counter is so nice. Okay, and I'm gonna flour my hand as I take all of the dough that I can off the spoon, and I am going to scoop my dough out like this, peeling as much as I can out of there, and then we're gonna get started. So sometimes I would keep this kind of dough where it's still really sticky in the bowl, and I would knead it in the bowl, but I'm taking it out so you guys can see it a little more. I'm gonna try to keep this hand clean for a little bit longer, and I'm just gonna keep flouring underneath my dough like this to try to keep it from sticking, but just know it's gonna be sticky, it's gonna be messy. That's okay, it's part of the process. Just try to keep it moving, try to keep it floured, and then you can just, like I just did, swirl around the dough that sticks to your counter. Okay, we're ready to go in now. And we're gonna start kneading. So, again, really wanna keep flouring the bottom of this. And I can already tell that we're probably gonna go a bit beyond the 4.5 cups today. And again, that's fine. So, what you see me doing here, this is just a quarter turn. It's very standard for baking, I guess. So I'm taking it, I'm folding it, pressing it in, and you just do these little quarter turns as you go. And if you feel it starting to stick to your hands too much, just roll some more flour. If you feel it starting to stick to your counter too much, then pour some more flour out on the counter. So whenever I get to this stage, this is when I'm gonna start praying. So this is a tradition, a custom, if you will, that Jewish women have been doing for as long as they've been making challah for Shabbat, and that is they start to pray for their families. So during this time, even though I'm working, which is fine, you can work before Shabbat, I'm thinking about my family, and I'm also just kind of getting into this mindset and heart set of it's almost Shabbat. It's almost the Lord's Day. I want the Lord to start preparing my heart for the day, for a day of rest and worship and family. I'll pray for my husband. So I still need more flour because I need to knead more, and it's sticking to the counter too much. So that's what I'll do. And I'm also going to flour my hands, so that'll just keep it from sticking to my hands also. And so you'll notice that after you flour, like a heavy flouring of the surface and your hands, that suddenly your dough is like not sticking together and it's coming apart really easy, and you're gonna panic and be like, oh no, I put too much flour, and then it's gonna stick again. So don't worry, we go through this process a lot, and I think you're gonna end up kneading your dough at least 15 minutes. I think, somewhere in there. I've never actually timed it, but I feel like that's what I hear women say, so we'll go with that. And you'll start to notice it coming together a little more, but if it's still really sticky to your surface, to your hands, like that, that's a little too sticky for me. So I'm gonna do another round of flour, and we'll see where this puts us at. Now, the interesting thing about challah is there are so many different kinds. There's kinds that come out like, the reason why I love this recipe is it only takes 4.5 to 5 cups of flour, and it makes 2 loaves. There are some recipes that require like 10 cups of flour for 2 loaves. It makes it, I think, a little harder of a challah. This challah comes out really soft, really chewy and delicious, and that's my favorite kind of challah, so that's why I like this recipe. And I also like not going through an entire bag of flour every week. So this is looking a little better to me. Let's see. Yeah, this is not bad. I think we might be done. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking the, I don't know, whatever this part's called, where it comes in, I'm doing this. I'm gonna push it and pull it around until it makes a little ball like this, and then I'm gonna get a bowl ready. Okay, so now you're gonna take a nice large bowl, because this is going to at least double in size, and you're gonna take some oil. I use olive oil for this part. I don't really know why, it just happened. And you're going to oil the inside of your bowl. And then you can smear this around with your hands or with the dough itself. And this is so the dough does not stick to your bowl. So we're gonna smear it all around in here. Okay? Then you're going to take your loaf, your dough. It's not a loaf yet. Not yet, you will be. It's okay. And you're going to toss it in there. And then if you want to see this part, you're going to help the dough or the oil get around by using the dough. And so we're going to make sure that every part of the dough is oiled. Yep, that is good. And then we're going to rinse ourselves. And then you're going to take some plastic wrap. Now, some people do this with a tea towel. I have found that the surefire way to get it to rise quickly and rise in general is to actually cover it tightly. So, I'm going to use some plastic wrap and cover one side and cover the other side. And don't worry, because when we're done letting this rise, we're actually going to reuse this plastic wrap for something else. And then we're going to find a nice warm place for this to rise. So if you have a proofing setting on your oven, I think that would work. I don't have one, so I don't know a lot about it. But I like to find a dark cabinet that's maybe a little warm and stick it in there. And it's going to need to rise for at least 2 hours. So goodbye for now, and we'll come back when it's time to actually form our braids. Welcome back. It's been more than 2 hours, but this happens and it's okay. I say the more time is better than less. So let's take it out and see how it did. Oh, it's gorgeous. Look at this. We're gonna save our plastic wrap because we're smart. You can go over here. Look at this. Lovely, nice and poofy. It is definitely doubled in size, and I definitely over-oiled the bowl. That's okay. This is the fun part. Bye-bye. Oh, it's the sound of Shabbat. So, we're gonna get rid of this. See, I should have put my hair back up. You're right. Okay, and we're just going to knead it together a little bit, not a lot, but okay, now this phase is when we pull out the stray dog that can just float around. It happens. Okay, so this is when you're gonna wanna start measuring your dough. Now, I'm not fancy and I don't have a scale, so I just eyeball it. Maybe someday I'll get a scale, because I will tell you that sometimes I'm rolling out my strands to make my braids and they're very uneven because I didn't eyeball it correctly. Now the main part of wanting to knead this down is to get out any air like big air pockets. And I can tell that I still have a few, so I'm gonna do a better job. And I'm just taking and pushing everything into the middle. You'll hear some little air pockets pop. Now I think that's a little better. Yeah. And so here I'm just pushing and pulling the dough around and around. And oh yeah, I still have some air pockets. What's going on? Now, but I don't want to over knead it here, so be really careful. And the first thing I'm gonna do is cut it in half, because we're making 2 loaves of challah. All right, so there's gonna be 1 loaf, here's another, and I'm gonna go ahead and form these into 2 balls. Now you'll see that at this stage, I'm really just using fingertips here, because again, I really don't wanna overwork my dough. But you're gonna see where we have a few different moments to let our dough rest, and that is a very important stage. That is so our dough doesn't get too hard to handle. We want the dough to be really soft and malleable, obviously, to make all of our fancy braids. So now I have 2 balls, and you'll see I kind of alternate using them, but that's just, I don't think it's necessary. But we're gonna do a 3 braid and a 4 braid, because it's kind of my go-to. So for the first batch, we're gonna say that this is gonna be my strand of 4, because that one's easier to divide. So I'm just going to cut it down the middle, and then cut each half in half. And now I have made 4. There, excuse me. All right, and now we're gonna turn them into a bunch of little balls. Now, what's important about this part is, see how one side is smooth and then one side is all open because it's been cut? I'm gonna take the smooth side on the bottom, and I'm gonna just gently with my fingertips, because again, we really don't wanna overwork the dough here. And I'm gonna take it and fold it in and pull out the dog hair. It's okay. My dough was really oily this time, so I don't need any flour. And I really don't like to work in a lot of flour at this stage, but if you needed to, you would just flour your fingertips. And again, it's so oily that it's not even sticking to the table, so I don't need to flour the table. I'm gonna do the same thing. I put the side with the pokes in it on the bottom, and I'm just gonna push and pull it around until it seals a little better, like this. And then I will have already prepared my baking sheet with some parchment paper, and I will go ahead and cover the top. You can also take like a little bit of flour and just flour the top so it doesn't stick. All right, oh, and you know what? This should probably be under here too. Just make sure it doesn't dry. And again, this is good for this dough to be resting while I'm working with all of the rest. So again, smooth side down onto the table, and I'm just taking with my fingertips, not mashing. I'm really gentle here. And then push and pull it around. This stage is really nice because it's gonna make rolling them out into the ropes a little easier. So again, smooth side down, and I'm just repeating the process. Now I will tell you, even though you need to go back and watch my challah video where I talk about why we bake challah for Shabbat, that the reason why we make 2 loaves of challah for Shabbat is because the 2 loaves represent the double portion of manna that God gave us in the wilderness after he led us out of Egypt. So that's why we have 2 loaves of challah, which is a wonderful tradition because challah is delicious. So taking my fingertips and I'm just touching the top of the challah balls like this, so that way it doesn't get stuck. And now this batch has had a time to rest, and now I'm gonna start working with it. You're welcome. And what's great about that is, oops, sorry, this is the double layer. While I'm working with this, now these get a chance to rest. If I was to try and roll these out right now into ropes, they would be really tough and they wouldn't get very far. So letting them rest, even just 10 minutes, is really, really good. So give yourself lots of extra time with that. Okay, so for this one, I'm making my braid of 3 strands. So I never get it right the first time. I go like this. I'm never right, so I might as well just not try. Again, fingertips to fold them into itself like a nice little dumpling or something. It sounds amazing right now. Now, this one's kind of tricky because there wasn't really a smooth side, so I just kind of have to make one up. Okay, so we did a pretty good job. This is actually pretty even. That never happens. So I'm gonna put these nice little balls to rest. I'm gonna take some flour and touch them like this. And then I'm going to cover them. And then, now I will start on these. Okay. Now, honestly, I would like to give these a little bit longer, but we're a little rushed. It's almost Shabbat, and it's time to get going. So, what we're gonna do to roll these out into ropes, and I'm not gonna lie, this is my least favorite part. I feel like I need to take a class because I feel like my ropes don't come out as pretty as they do in other people's videos. So, I will kind of smash this out a little bit. This is my ugly side facing up, and I'm gonna start folding and pinching down like this. Now, if you found that your dough was really sticky and it's sticking down to the counter too much, you can flour your surface, but be careful because sometimes I floured it and then my rope gets like hard and will not stretch out at all. So now that I've made it into kind of a tight taquito, I'm gonna start rolling it out. And I work my hands out as I go. Now, for this first one, we're making a braid of 4. So you actually want your rope to be somewhat short and squat. And the ends as much as you can, are gonna try to not be tapered. Honestly, I end up folding the edges under anyways, so it doesn't matter too much. But there we go. There's one row. And we're gonna repeat with the rest. Okay, so now I am gonna go back to my first one and just see, oh, see, it's already so much softer, so it's able to get it a little longer. And for the 4-strand braid, again, they are supposed to be somewhat shorter, but that was a little too short for me. I just felt like our bread was gonna be really stumpy. So wanted to see if we could get a little more length, and we could. So, and honestly, like the most important thing about challah is the more you do it, the more comfortable you're gonna become with it, the more little tricks and stuff you'll learn. I'm very much not, I don't have a lot of tricks, so still learning. All right, now that's done. I'm going to make them all parallel to me. Oh my gosh, this counter is so nice. It's nice to have some marble. I have a plastic table and I feel like my dough sticks to it a lot worse. So if you have marble, you're in luck. Congratulations. Okay, so what we're gonna do is start by bringing all of the ends together like this, and we're gonna give them a good pinch like this. So that way they're all bound at the end. And now we can get started with the braid. So first thing you're gonna do is take the strand from the bottom of your pinch and fold it all the way over, and then take the strand from the opposite end and fold it over. And this is how you're gonna start your braid. And this is actually how you would start a lot of fancy braids. Okay, now your mantra while you do this is down to the middle and replace. Down to the middle, replace, down to the middle, replace. Now, I'm gonna start with the strand at the top. And as you can see, this is my middle, these are my ends. I'm going to take it down to the middle, and then I'm going to replace it with the opposite side's strand, okay? Replace. Now, I'm taking this end, I'm bringing it down to the middle and replacing it from the opposite side, replace. Down to the middle, replace. Down to the middle, replace. Down to the middle, replace. This is probably my last one. Down to the middle, somewhat replace. And we're going to now gather the ends and pinch them and make sure they have a good pinch because they can come apart. And we're gonna tuck it under like this. And I'll take this end and tuck it under as well. And you are gonna have a smaller, shorter loaf, but that's okay. Here's our strand of 4. She's beautiful. And now you're gonna place her, I have kind of a small cookie sheet because I'm used to, it has to fit in my tiny RV oven. I wanna place this right where I know I'm gonna want it on the baking sheet because once it has risen in its braid, you really don't wanna move it. So, and you can bake both loaves at the same time. So if you have a larger normal cookie sheet or the normal oven, you definitely bake both loaves at the same time. They just need to have a lot of space from each other, otherwise they will grow into one another. So we're going to put this little lady aside and start on our strand of 3. Now, these dough balls have had a lot of time now to rest, so you're gonna see that these are actually gonna go probably a lot smoother. We are ready to do a simple 3-strand braid. Now, you can do the same thing that you did with the other one where you can pinch it at the top. But I do find that it makes the start of the braid kind of funky. So we're going to start it from the middle like this. You can go over or you can go under. It really doesn't matter. I guess we're going under today. I'm just gonna try to remember though what I did, and then we're gonna pinch the ends under, 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 and under, and under. That came out a little weird. Now you're gonna take your weird 3-strand braid and place it on your cookie cutter, and you're gonna let that rise. Sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes it's 10 minutes. It really depends upon how much time I have before Shabbat, and I know my hair probably looks crazy. That's okay. So we're gonna give this some time. I don't know how much time. I'll let you know when we come back, but I am going to preheat my oven to 350, and we'll see you in a little bit. Welcome back. We made it. It's been over 15 minutes. I don't know if it's been 30. 30 is a long time. I really don't think I ever wait a full 30 minutes. What I'm looking for is for the dough, well, the braids, whatever, to be a little puffed up, which they are. They look great. The longer you sit, the puffier it's gonna get, so it's really up to you, but at this phase, I say it's ready to go. So, for the last thing today, you're going to take 1 egg, look at these. We're gonna get it ready for an egg wash. Now, some people do the wash with water, they do it with oil. There's a lot of options, but the traditional one is an egg wash, and I say it's the best. Whatever you wash it with is actually gonna make a different kind of sheen after you bake it. So I feel like the egg does the best. It's shiny and looks really, really nice. And good news, you can save your egg wash for tomorrow and have some scrambled eggs. So what you're gonna do, very simple, you're just going to dip and brush. I think it's best if you try to go a little bit with the strand. Oh, look at there, now it's my hair. See, this is really why you have to have your hair up when you do this. If you go with the strand, it just makes it so when your dough is a little sensitive, and I will say the longer you let it rise here, the more like sensitive, I guess, your dough is, and it'll like pierce and smush easier. While I'm doing this, let me tell you some of the great things that you can do after this step in your challah making. This is when you can sprinkle or adorn your challah. So the traditional toppings are sesame seeds or poppy seeds, both very good, although I will say, if you don't like sesame seeds, it's gonna not taste great to you. So I like sesame seeds, but I don't love them, I guess. I don't know. So it was a little intense for me when I did it once. Poppy seeds, very good, but you can also sprinkle basically whatever you want on this. I've seen people do like big salt crystals. Salt is also very symbolic around challah, for Shabbat. I've also seasoned mine with za'atar, and that is very, very good. Those sesame seeds I do not mind at all. And then another great thing about Shabbat is, again, you're doing it every week. So, or maybe you're doing it every week. I've been doing it just about every week. And you can get really creative with your braids. You can do like stuffed herb and goat cheese challahs. I mean, people get really fancy, so I encourage you to like jump online, see what other people are doing. You'll be super inspired to get creative yourself. Okay, so now this is going into the oven at 350 for about 25 to 30 minutes, but I will tell you, if you're baking with an oven that you're not used to, check on it in around 20 minutes, because you never know. And don't open your oven. Once it's in there, don't open it. You can check it with the light until it's ready. Goodbye to you. All right, so we'll come back in a little bit. Welcome back. The timer's about to go off. So I had this in there for about a total of 29 minutes, I think. 25 to 30 minutes is about what you're gonna need. And it's about done, so let's just go over to the oven and take it out and see how it came out. I'll turn the timer on. Oh, it looks gorgeous! Look at that. Just a little shaking with the bread. It's fine. There you go. 2 gorgeous loaves of challah. Look at them. So you're looking for them to have this kind of golden brown sheen on the outside. Looks really good. But if you're not sure, you're gonna want to tap the bottom of your challah to see if it sounds hollow. So I hope you enjoyed this really professional challah video. Let me know if you do this yourself. This is a super easy recipe, and I know if you're like me, maybe you want to be adventurous once you're comfortable. This is a good recipe to help get you comfortable. So enjoy. Let me know how it goes. Please comment and tell me if you're going to try or if you have tried or if you'd like more videos like this. Hopefully we will, and they'll be a little less messy. Just kidding. They'll be just as messy. But also, subscribe to the channel, follow me on social media, all that good stuff. But I will say, you should sign up for notifications on my page. And I'm not just saying that because that's what people say, and it does something with the algorithm, I think. But actually, we try to get our videos up every Monday evening. But like this week, we were sick, and so it didn't happen. So it's a little inconsistent right now until we really get our footing with this. So if you signed up for notifications, it's not a problem. I think you should do it. Enjoy making your challah. Shabbat shalom, and I will see you next time. Bye.